Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back, and wouldn't you know it, here we are once again talking about Nintendo in 2020. Feels pretty good, right? Feels like home. Now, the reason that I wanted to talk about this today is because finally, over the past couple of weeks, there has been a little bit of movement from Nintendo within kind of the gaming news cycle, which has been obviously very exciting. We're all really glad about this. I've discussed it on several of my last videos. I was, of course, a guest on a podcast discussing a lot of this Nintendo stuff. It's been great. You know, we've had updates and rumors and news about some new potential games. We've had kind of rumors, kind of news stories about what's happening with Nintendo Directs, like nothing confirmed, but stuff that feels real. And then, of course, the biggest thing was the announcement and the confirmation of a brand new Nintendo game, Paper Mario The Origami King, coming out only 2 months from now. And let's not forget that we're slowly creeping up on the halfway point to the year, you guys. I know it's crazy to think about, but it's true. Right now, we're in the end of May, and a month from now, it's going to be the end of June, and that literally is the halfway point. The end of June and the beginning of July, 50% of the year is already done. Crazy to think about. It's, 2020 is just the catastrophe that we know it is in gaming space, in the world space, the health situation. I mean, everything about daily life, both entertainment-wise and hobby-wise, as well as our real lives, is changed and different. And so, on the gaming side, things have been weird. We've got some great games that have released, on non-Switch platforms, to be fair, this year. And then, of course, one huge Switch game, Animal Crossing New Horizons, did of course release, so there has at least been game releases, but there's been delays, there's been no Nintendo Directs, there's been concerns about next-gen consoles launching at the end of the year, there's been a lot of mystery, E3 was canceled, GDC was canceled. I mean, all of this stuff has changed everything, and so coming up to the halfway point made me want to now start to discuss what the back half of Nintendo could look like in a world where they seem to have, as I've said in the past, awoken from their slumber, right? They gave us a Nintendo Direct Mini about a month and a half or so ago. They gave us the first brand new game in like a year, I think. The first new Nintendo game announcement in like a year. And that game comes out soon, right around the halfway point of the year. And because there's rumors and discussions and news stories about other games, I wanted to take some time in this video and discuss it. Kind of predict how I think some of the back half of the year will play out. Both in terms of a lot of the games that we already know about, or the rumors of games we know about, and a few extra things sprinkled in that would be kind of my own personal predictions for the year. Now we're going to start off with the few negative things, the things that I think won't happen or we won't see on the Nintendo Switch in the back half of 2020. I don't want to end with the negative stuff, I kind of wanted to get these 2 or 3 things out of the way. And the first thing I don't think will happen in the back half of 2020 for the Nintendo Switch is any more third-party multi-platform games. And of course, the multi-platform aspect is the key aspect there, right? So we've seen games like Mortal Kombat 11 and Wolfenstein 2 come to the Switch, either day and date or slightly delayed from their counterparts. And that's been great to see. But are we going to see more of that? We already know of 2 of them, okay? We know that The Outer Worlds is releasing in just the next few weeks. We know that Doom Eternal, the Switch version, is scheduled for sometime in 2020. It might even be in the back half of 2020 for the Nintendo Switch. But what I don't expect is any new announcements of such games. Really, the only notable third-party multi-platform game that I can think of right now for the back half of the year would be Cyberpunk. And I don't think that any of us are expecting Cyberpunk to come to the Switch, right? CD Projekt Red has even kind of talked about it. And there's no reason to believe that A, it's going to happen, or B, that it's even technically possible on the Switch. I mean, there probably is a way. The Switch works magic. You've heard me say that before. But I don't think that we're going to see this game. And with that other exception, it's just a matter of any other new games that are announced. I guess you have like the Tony Hawk remasters, for example, that were just announced, not coming to the Switch, right? We're seeing more and more cases where some of these games are announced, and they're not getting Switch counterparts, which is definitely frustrating. And when you throw on top of that the fact that 2020 is a weird year and things are slow, I just don't think we're going to see any new announcement of third-party games that are multi-platform with the PS4, Xbox One, or the PC. The other big no-no that I don't think is going to happen on the Switch this year, it is a big one, but I don't think it'll surprise you guys, and it's Breath of the Wild 2. You guys, I just don't see this game coming out in 2020. This one does have the slight possibility to surprise me, and to prove me wrong and to happen, to be fair. So we can all get excited at the fact that there's at least that sliver of a chance that this is planned to be a big holiday title this year. And I've discussed many times how I think that makes sense and why it could happen. But right here and now, in May of 2020, before we've seen a lot of stuff from Nintendo for the back half of the year, it feels like that game is not going to happen. And if I was going to put money on it, I would put money on no Breath of the Wild 2 in 2020. We want it. It would be great. It would be the perfect thing to pad out the year, the perfect thing to counter the releases of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X without question for the Switch. But it's just not going to happen, you guys. I just don't feel like that game is ready this year. I think they want that to be a big title for 2021. And while we're at it, I'll go ahead and just add as an aside, obviously, no Metroid Prime 4. Moving on to the next stuff, the fun stuff, the things that I think are going to happen, or at least have a good chance at happening, we're going to start off with the few things that we actually know. The way I see things right now, there are 3 big exclusive titles for the Switch still releasing in 2020 that we already know about. The first is my most anticipated game for the rest of 2020, No More Heroes 3. I am so ready. I've been waiting 10 years for this game. Let's get this sucker out. I'm getting slightly nervous. It's going to get delayed. But really, in my heart of hearts, I don't think that's going to happen. So hopefully we hear from that game soon. We get a release date. We see gameplay. All of that good stuff. The other one is a game that I was thinking I was going to be excited about, but after playing the demo I decided is not personally for me, is Bravely Default 2. Now, I know most people are very excited, RPG fans are super pumped, and I think that's great. There was nothing wrong with the demo when I played it, it just didn't really work for me or appeal to me. And most of you guys know I'm not huge on JRPGs. It's not that I hate them, there's a couple out there that I do like, but it's really not my kind of genre. So that's not for me, but it is a pretty big high-profile game that's coming out this year. And then, of course, the big one that was already announced and we already discussed, Paper Mario the Origami King, just revealed last week, coming out July 17th, the day after my birthday, which is also less than 2 months from today. So this is all fantastic news. These are great games. And of course, I just remembered a 4th big game. It's not the back half of the year, but I do want to at least add that Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition comes out next week. That is a big game still to release on the Switch this year from Nintendo. It is exclusive. It is a first half 2020 game, but it's going to be great. So those are the big games that we already know about. But from there, I want to move on to some new things and some predictions. And the first thing I want to discuss is this whole thing with the Mario remasters, okay? This is a huge story. A lot of people have corroborated it. There's nothing but reason to believe this is real. It has not been confirmed, right? So that's where we're at with that. Hasn't been confirmed, so it might not be real, but there's plenty of evidence and plenty of people talking both publicly and behind the scenes that this is the real deal and that these games in some fashion are going to come. I tend to slightly err on the side of believing this, okay? This is the situation where if I was going to go to Vegas and put money on it, I would put a little bit of money, not a lot, but a little bit of money that says these games are going to come out this year. And as we've discussed on the channel here, you know, how they're going to release would still be up in the air. Are these remasters or are they straight ports? Are they coming out physical or digital only? Are they going to be full priced, fully featured, or are they going to be discounted digital only? I mean, collection or individual? It is so weird. We just don't know what's going on with these, if these things are even real. And we don't even truly know the games that they would be remastering. We've heard the names Mario Sunshine, Mario 64, and Mario Galaxy thrown around. Mario Galaxy 2 never got thrown around. But that brings us to the next game, which is Mario 3D World from the Wii U, which is expected to be one of the big and final ports from the Wii U over to the Switch. I also tend to believe this one. Not confirmed, might turn out to be fake, but truly, I believe this. In fact, I believe this one game more than I currently believe the Mario remasters. And I already, kind of tend to believe those, like I said. So the whole Mario thing is very interesting. Like, we had this conversation about Nintendo was planning a 35th anniversary Mario blowout at E3. They're going to be raining Mario titles on the Switch this year. Mostly remasters, right? I mean, no word about a new Mario game, just 3, 4, or 5 remasters or re-releases of older Mario games. Still worth getting excited for. I would be buying every single one of these, but nothing new, and like I said, nothing confirmed. However, it just seems like, yes, this is probably something that's going to happen. It's the 35th anniversary. These games make so much sense. So we'll just have to see what happens. And now, of course, in my last video a couple of days ago, I discussed 2 updates on 2 games. One being Pikmin 3, another Wii U port for the Switch being rumored right now. And then, of course, Bayonetta 3. What the holy heck is going on with Bayonetta 3? The only thing we know is Kamiya's recent updates where he finally said, yeah, the game is coming, we're making it, it's not canceled. So, okay, not really the update that we wanted, but it's better than hearing that I guess the game was canceled. So, in that respect, it's good news. So, you know, what do I think of these? Honestly, I think that these are going to be 2020 games. Pikmin 3, I think there's a good shot that it's coming out this year as well. There's been a lot of smoke to this fire for a while now, and now it's getting this kind of story up in the news kind of cycle, and yeah, I tend to think that it's probably going to happen. Bayonetta 3 is much more of a wild card, but I'll be real with you guys, I still think this game makes sense for 2020. Some people have pointed out the fact that, you know, they didn't give us any updates for almost 3 years now since they announced this game. Why haven't they been able to say or show anything? Is it maybe just struggling behind the scenes? And it's a worthy concern, but I just personally, I don't know, man. I don't feel that. I think I trust Platinum, and I trust the way them and Nintendo would treat this third Bayonetta game. I think it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing and killer, and it just... yeah, it just makes sense. I think this is one of the perfect, huge release games to put on the Switch in the back half of 2020 to really pad out the year when things have been so slow. So I really do think that, yeah, we're probably going to see Bayonetta 3 this year. And now let's get into some new games, some new titles that haven't been discussed, revealed, or really rumored, with the exception of this first one we're going to talk about here. I'm going to take some really big swings with these guys. I got 4 or 5 here, and they're all very big swings, so just be prepared for that, okay? Let's get to the goods. Let's get to the meat and what I know you guys want to hear me talk about. Let's talk about Metroid, okay? What's happening with Metroid in 2020? Is anything happening with Metroid in 2020? What about the leak and the tease at the beginning of the year? What about the tease at the end of the Paper Mario trailer? What about the delay of Metroid Prime 4, the rumors of a Prime trilogy? What the holy crap is going on with Metroid? And you know what? It may be foolish for me to do so, but I'm going to stick to what I've been saying for the past probably year. Well before 2020, well before the health crisis. I still think, even here and now, in a health crisis situation, I do think we're getting some kind of Metroid release this year. I don't think Nintendo is going to let this year go without doing something Metroid on the Nintendo Switch. Beyond just straight ports of the original Metroid and Super Metroid that's on the online service. I'm talking about some kind of new Metroid release, which might even include some ports or remasters of other games, but of newer games and games that aren't just straight ports from like old 8 and 16-bit consoles. You know, I said in my review of the Paper Mario thing, I kind of think the tease is a tease for a new Metroid game. There's a million reasons why it might not be, and I've acknowledged those. But as a fan and just somebody who feels what I feel in my gut, I feel like a Metroid game was teased at the end of that trailer. What was that Metroid game? Is it a Metroid Fusion remake or remaster? Is it a sequel to Metroid Fusion? Is it a Metroid 5? Is it just a nod to Metroid Prime 4? Is it discussing the Metroid Prime trilogy? A totally brand new kind of Metroid game that we've never talked about or heard about before? None of us know, but it just feels like that was teasing a new Metroid game. So of all the things I think could happen Metroid-wise in 2020, I think there's a good chance that that tease was hinting at it. Even if you think it's crazy, I do kind of believe it. Now, what about the Metroid Prime trilogy? Are we ever going to see this frickin' thing? I don't know. All I can say is, in a world where I think we're getting a Metroid game this year, that, yeah, sure, maybe the Prime trilogy is one of them. We've been talking about it for what feels like 100 years, and I don't know if we're ever going to see the damned thing on the Switch. I hope it happens, and so yeah, maybe that's one of them. A Samus Returns HD port, that would be fantastic. We'd all love to see that. But again, I'm going to go back to Old Faithful here, and I've long been predicting, again, since 2019 I've been predicting this, a potential new 2D Metroid experience. I don't know what kind of graphical style. I don't know if we're talking Metroid 5, Fusion 2, or any of that stuff. I just don't know. I can just tell you, I just have this feeling. My prediction for this year is potentially a 2D Metroid game. A brand new 2D game that we've never seen or played before. Now, I'm going to hit you guys with the biggest swing in this entire predictions video, and keep in mind, before you laugh when I say it, that I know it's a big swing. I'm acknowledging that, but I just think it's time to throw this out here and just see what's going to happen, man. Let's just see what sticks, because 2020 is the weirdest year in history, so maybe this is going to happen. And that would be, potentially, Retro Studios' other game. What has Retro Studios been making since Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in 2014? We don't know. We know that they were working on something, man, but we've never seen it. Nothing has ever come from that. And then we, of course, know that they were handed back the keys to Metroid Prime 4 in early 2019, about a year and a half ago, when everything fell apart with that game. So we know most, if not maybe all of the team is working on that game. Who knows? But we know that there was some other title that they were working on. Reggie talked about it several times. We know they were doing something in that 6-year gap. And there is a chance it was scrapped. I even discussed it on that podcast recently. There's a chance that it was scrapped, but I just kind of think that maybe we're going to see it, you know? It's a big swing. Like I said, maybe it's only a 20% chance. Maybe it's even less than that. But it's the one that I want to take. It's my crazy wild prediction, my biggest one here. We know they've been making something. I don't want to believe that it's been canceled, so I want to believe we might see that as a game this year. You know, are they working on another Nintendo franchise like a Kid Icarus or an F-Zero or something like that? Maybe, so show us that. Were they making a new IP, which I'd probably prefer? It would be a new IP. Maybe, show us that game. I mean, whatever they were doing, let's hope it was real. Hell, I'll even take a third Donkey Kong Country game. Nintendo, like, if that's what you guys want Retro to do forever is Donkey Kong Country games, fine. I mean, it's not the most exciting, but they've made 2 amazing games, so sure, bring on a third. Whatever it is, I want to believe we might see it this year. Now, of course, we also know that Monolith has been making a new game as well. They wrapped up Xenoblade Chronicles 2 during the launch of the Switch. They're now getting ready to release the Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition in just 1 week, which means they've been done with it for probably a month or a couple of months. I'm sure they've been making some other game. I'm sure. What am I talking about? We know they've been making another game. They have been making another game. Is it yet another game in the Xenoblade series? Maybe, and if so, I want to see it. I love all 3 Xenoblade games. They're great. Have they been doing something else? Maybe a different Nintendo franchise similar to Retro? Show us that. Maybe they might be working with, you know, Nintendo on Zelda. That's entirely possible too. But they might even be making a new IP. I mean, the sky's almost the limit with Monolith. They're becoming one of Nintendo's best internal developers and teams. They're so talented. They're great making huge games and big worlds. I want to see what those guys are making. We know they're doing something, so maybe they plan to give us like a 1-2 punch of like a remake of an older Monolith game and then a brand new Monolith game later in the year. Going back to the third-party side, I do think we might see one more third-party exclusive title for the Nintendo Switch, okay? In the beginning of the video, I said we're not going to see a third-party multi-platform game, which would be a game that has other versions of that game releasing on other consoles. Here I'm talking about a third-party exclusive, like Marvel Ultimate Alliance, or Bayonetta 3, or Astral Chain, or Octopath Traveler, Bravely Default, No More Heroes 3, you know. Nintendo has always been pretty good, or at least the past 10 or so years, at securing the occasional really kick-ass third-party exclusive. And to be fair, we already have quite a few of those this year. We already know about No More Heroes and Bravely Default. I'm predicting Bayonetta 3. And now here I am predicting potentially a 4th one that, if any of these are, or all of these are right, would make 4 third-party exclusive games in 2020. But the reason it feels kind of right to me is because it's a slow year and Nintendo doesn't have many of their own new games coming out. If some of these other predictions are true, I mean Mario Remasters, Mario 3D World, Pikmin 3, like Metroid Prime Trilogy, if any of those things happen, sure they're Nintendo games, but they're old Nintendo games. What about a new game that's never been made or never been played? There's really not many of those. The only thing there is Animal Crossing and Paper Mario. That's all we know about. And so third-party games help fill that void. I'm not expecting multiplats, but I do think another exclusive from a third-party company could happen. And now the last kind of big prediction I'm going to take here. It's another really, really big one. Not quite as big as Retro, but it's big. And I think that on the Nintendo side, if they're going to give us any big Nintendo first-party game outside of a Metroid, which I've already predicted, by the way, any other first-party game, I think it might be Star Fox or Pikmin 4, okay? Now, there's a lot to unpack with this because Star Fox, people have been talking about it forever. The last game they made was very divisive. Most people really didn't like it, so you could argue Star Fox is on shaky ground, and even though I liked Star Fox Zero, I would agree with you. Star Fox is kind of on shaky ground. Now with Pikmin, I've already told you that I think Pikmin 3 has a pretty good chance at getting a Wii U to Switch port this year as well. Even the rumors coming from like VentureBeat are saying that that's probably going to happen. And I tend to believe that. So am I thinking that maybe we would see 2 Pikmin games released in 1 year? And yes, basically that's what this is. This is another huge, wild, out there prediction that maybe a Star Fox or maybe a second Pikmin game, being Pikmin 4, might be something Nintendo surprises us with for the fall holiday time as far as first-party games and first-party franchises go. And, you know, I don't know which one I think is more likely. I think I want to say Pikmin 4 is more likely because that's a game we basically know Nintendo's already been making. We don't know if they've been making a Star Fox. We believe they have been, but we don't know it. But Miyamoto said they were making Pikmin 4 years ago, and they confirmed, hey, Pikmin is not the game that he was talking about. So Pikmin 4 exists, and I want to believe that there's a chance it comes out this year. Maybe they would finally do a double dose, a double whammy, and say, here's Pikmin 3 port over the summer to get you hyped and excited and re-familiarize yourself with Pikmin, and then coming this October is Pikmin 4. I predicted Pikmin late in 2019, then the health situation changed everything about Nintendo's year. I'm kind of wanting to just bring it back here at the end, and so, you know, I don't even know which one I want more, man. I want Star Fox or Pikmin 4 so badly. It's just like, give me whatever. But if there's any first-party franchises besides Metroid that could release this year, it's going to be Star Fox or Pikmin. So I'm sure that about half of this sounded very sane and reasonable to you, and half of this sounded completely bonkers. And I get it. You know, I'm the guy who's been sitting here for the last couple of months talking about how weird and slow and quiet Nintendo's been, and it's been a little bit, you know, frustrating. Not angering, but a little bit frustrating because they haven't really been talking to us or being transparent about what's been going on. But I do think with some of the news going the last couple of weeks and the first final new announcement of a new game with Paper Mario, I think that maybe it's opened the door for the floodgates to potentially open, and maybe Nintendo is getting ready over this summer, you know, in the place of E3, to start slowly rolling out information on new games. If it's true that no more new Nintendo Directs are coming, we might be able to expect Twitter and YouTube announcements over the course of the summer and the next couple of months. So why couldn't they randomly say, hey, here's the new Metroid 2D game that you guys wanted, or the Metroid Prime Trilogy even. Here's Bayonetta 3, it's confirmed for October. Here's a new Star Fox. Here's this brand new third-party game that you didn't know about. It's coming out in November. I mean, they could literally do that over the course of months and hit a lot of what's going on here. The Mario thing, if they did the Mario remasters, I think that might be something like almost kind of a direct, but it wouldn't be framed as a direct. I could see them releasing like a 5 to 10 minute video talking about Mario's so great, 35th anniversary, and to celebrate, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're releasing this year, a bunch of Mario remasters. I think that could have the closest to a direct vibe of any announcement. Everything else, all they got to do is just put trailers up on YouTube and tweets out on Twitter that, hey, here's this new game. Here's a new Star Fox. Here's a new Pikmin. Here's Metroid Prime. Whatever. You know, they could just do that, and I think that we'd all be like, this is great. You know, if they did Retro or Monolith's game, different story. But those are big predictions that it's really tough to nail the details out on. So we'll just have to see what happens with that stuff. So either way, this was just something to do for fun. Hopefully it gets you guys excited, feeling the Nintendo love and the Nintendo goodness, and, you know, kind of help fill the void of the fact that we're still not sure what Nintendo is doing. We've got this great new exciting game, Paper Mario, to look forward to soon, but we're still waiting on other stuff. Maybe some of my crazy predictions turn out to be true, you know, and so if so, then great, we have more games. So with that, I want to hear what you think. What do you think about my predictions? What are some of your own predictions? Whatever you feel, talk about it below. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.